Good evening. Troy Francis, joined by Dr. Silk. We're in Warsaw in a secret location, and what we want to talk about really now is imagine you're in the bar and you're sitting there and you're having drinks with an extremely beautiful, attractive woman. Okay. How do you engage with her in a way that feels authentic and feels genuine and feels real? And furthermore, how do you do that and feel comfortable doing it? So you don't feel like you're doing something that's weird or you're doing something that's fake. You're not using any routines, you're not using any scripts. This is just you sitting there and showing value to her, okay, but on a very authentic, real level. How do you do that? Because I think most guys have this terrible trouble with this, and this actual real fear of being in the presence of a really, really beautiful woman and not knowing what to say and not knowing how to do these things.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, what we have to see in this particular area is what is actually value in that kind of situation. I mean, most of the time, guys think that value is something that comes from me. And in order to actually create the value, in her perspective, is to show who I am, basically.
So this passive value, this idea about passive value.
Sort of, with your own stories, with your own perception of the world. But the truth is, this is a big misunderstanding.
So that you mean like trying to impress her? Like trying to I can tell these amazing stories, I can do these crazy conversational tricks.
Sort of, but even if you don't do that and you try to be like absolutely you start talking about yourself because you don't know what to do in any other case. And you start talking and rambling about yourself.
Yeah.
And is that something, even if you are the best storyteller in the world, is that what actually create connection with that beautiful woman at the bar, without any routines, without any pre-rehearsal script? The answer is basically no. Does it create any kind of value? Yes, but if you start talking about yourself that is not in a very concise manner, it actually takes value instead. Because just to be very clear on this, people are not so interested about what's going on in your life. But because we are, as human beings, very self-centered. We like to talk about ourselves, basically. And this is actually coming from very robust research from Harvard University and Harvard Business Schools that actually shows that in order to create genuine connection with someone, we just have to use a completely different approach, an approach that we are teaching now that is actually based from the cutting edge theory from the communication faculty, and we made it into practical terms. And in order to create the most value in that particular situation is actually to be more genuine yourself than you've ever been before, which can sound almost too good to be true, but it is exactly that is needed in order to create the true connection.
So, because guys often will come to this material and they think, right, I need to become really extrovert, I need to become very flashy, I need to do these impressive things, I need to be able to talk like a Hollywood actor in order to make her think this guy's really cool. But actually, the truth is it's not that at all, right? It's
Not
actually
at all.
a lot more, you can be a lot more subtle, and it's actually creating that connection in a much more authentic way. It's not about the fireworks, it's about something else.
Absolutely. And this is actually a skill that doesn't come natural to us. And we cannot really learn this one naturally. This kind of connection theory needs to be taught with intent. In other words, you have to learn it with intent.
Yes.
I mean, there is a misconcept in the world today, and specifically in the dating scene, that in order to be interesting, in order to have an interesting time, we have to talk and say a lot of interesting things. But it cannot be further from the truth. I mean, if we are going to be genuinely interesting, we are actually going to start talking about the other person. So that is basically the key. And there's lots of theory behind it. And we are doing it into practical terms of how to make that happen.
So bringing it into the dating scene, because a lot of this stuff has been talked about, well, academically and in business and so on, and the application has been more, well, business, politics,
Yeah.
negotiation, sales probably, etc., etc. But who's been taking this stuff and actually applying it to what is arguably the most important aspects of most people's lives, which is finding, romantic partner or finding, people to be intimate with, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing now.
Exactly. And to start to open that door to everything basically is to be able to create connection.
Yes.
So we have to start with what is it that we can do in order to create connection. And that is what we have been working on very extensively. And we're using the cutting edge scientific literature to get there.
But exactly.
Yeah.
But and to put it very simply, I suppose to close the circle on the video, if you are able to create connection, then you can sit there, and it doesn't matter if she's a Victoria's Secret model, it doesn't matter if she's a supermodel, you're going to feel completely comfortable in her presence because you know what you're doing, and you're creating a genuine connection with her that isn't based on trying to be something you're not, or talking about your Lambo parked outside, or any of this kind of nonsense. So this is about actual human-to-human dynamics.
Exactly.
In a way that most people just aren't really even scraping the surface of this.
Absolutely, it's so true, because what we are doing here is based on human nature principles. Human nature principles. And that is what we are using in order to take the things into the different level and really create a true connection. Most guys in general doesn't know how to even start open any kind of connection with anyone. So since it is a skill that has to be learned with intent, that can be translated that no one else is doing it basically, because you really have to be into this stuff in order to be able to implement it into yourself and become part of it.
Absolutely.
As
Indeed.
a person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that is exactly what it is. So the main thing in this video is connection. How can we actually connect with that beautiful girl? How does it actually work? And we do have the practical tools to do that. And the mindset of it all is to be more yourself than you can even imagine about.
Indeed, and interested in her as well. I think that's
Absolutely.
another key thing.
That's actually one of the absolutely key factors. But we have to rewire our brain to think in that way, because we are not wired to think that way. We have to learn to think that way. And once we have learned to think that way, it's actually become part of us, and we cannot actually go back to being our old self. We become just a much more genuine self than we ever been in a whole life. And as we'll be teaching, a lot of students, they just change their lives based on being the self more than ever. And that's not only give you a better result, we're actually optimizing the way of getting a true connection in the example that we gave in the beginning. With the girl at the bar, basically.
So look, if you want to talk about this further in regard to your own personal situation, maybe you want to get some personal coaching with Dr. Silk, it's absolutely possible. Drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com, or there's a link below. You can make an appointment in my calendar. We can have a conversation, and we can make it happen, because we are taking on students. It's very limited because obviously Dr. Silk's time is very valuable, but if you are the right fit, then we can definitely help you with this. So please get in touch. And pleasure as always, of course. And we will see you guys in the next video very soon.
Very good, guys.